on a second. And here we go. So I'm going to bring up fancy schmancy presentation. Can everyone see the glory that is the Wealth Vortex? Awesome. Yay. So welcome to the Wealth Vortex. We are unlocking the secrets of financial freedom and economic empowerment. This is so exciting because it is going to be a choose your own adventure experience. As far as I know, a never before done thing that I, Lobsterbird, Isha, Vela, and Bruriyah all madcap genius brought together for you. Let's journey into the Wealth Vortex. So first, I want to give virtual hugs from Vortex Financial and just a brief introduction as to who we are. We are a financial planning and advising agency. It is led by the heartstrong Bruriyah, who created this agency. My financial planning advisor mentor, as I'm doing my field training, is Isha. And we're really a group of people who want to kind of renegade, change the financial industry to really utilize the financial industry. The things that have been happening in there, the wealth secrets, that have been kept there and have kept a discrepancy in wealth between lots of different people to really equalize the playing field and to bring wealth into the hands of all people. And I would say from my end, especially people, who are creatives, who are sensitive and care about the world, to people who are healers and earth stewards. I really love to imagine and to dream into a world where these are the people that are stewarding wealth. These are the people that are using it to create new initiatives so that everyone on this planet can thrive. So it's an honor for me to be a part of this agency and to be able to give so much education and empowerment to people so that they can be their wealthiest selves and really fund their dreams, support their families, and change the world together. And so we are going to move into this. There's so much magic prepared for you between what Bruriyah is bringing and Isha are bringing to this. And so here's a brief little rundown of what's going to happen in the next 90 minutes packed with magic. First, we'll go on a guided journey to meet your wealthiest self, and I'll be leading that. We will go through the purification of the greatest prosperity barriers with Isha. Bruriyah will be infusing ourselves with more expansive energetics to really embody wealth. And we'll talk about what being the embodiment of wealth is. And then we will have this choose your own adventure journey, which I will explain a little more in detail, but it's worth staying, I think, to see how this innovation unfolds. So are you ready to dive into the Wealth Vortex? Give me a emoji or, some kind of, you can throw a number in there if you're ready to dive in. And yeah, so a little bit here from me about wealth. And what I really see this Wealth Vortex is really getting into the slipstream of the energy of wealth, bringing it into our bodies and lives. And, one of the common misconceptions is that wealth is something that is external to us, right? It's about money, which is an outside thing. It's something like we have to get or we don't have access to for certain reasons. But I want to adamantly say that wealth is not something that we get from the outside. Wealth is something that's inherently possible for each and every one of us. And even though we've lived in a world where there's been huge discrepancies based on things that honestly there shouldn't be, such as like class and race and gender and all of these different things. A lot of people have been marginalized, but it is something that is possible for every one of us. And wealth is unique to you based on your desires and your capacity to be able to create and generate wealth from your own internal resources, the resources you already have, and also your capacity to receive more, to be able to receive more resources, knowing that You are worthy of doing so, knowing that it is your inherent birthright to be wealthy and to be able to receive that and share that back with the world. So there is this wildly wealthy version of you already exists. So if you think this person doesn't, think again, because this person exists in another dimension, possibly, or maybe even very close within this one. And this person is waiting to take you on an adventure of a lifetime with all of the wealth that you can create together and all the things that you can do and be. So the question is, will you go on this adventure? Do you dare? Because the key here, one of the things I love doing is wormholing, which is doing much more, getting to places where we think we possibly couldn't get by bending time and space. But in order to be able to do that, if we're in our spaceship, we need to have our seatbelt on. We need to be safe, right? We need to be able to fly through dimensions, to bend time and space, to do things that maybe don't seem possible, or we were told they're not possible, or we don't know how they're going to happen. The only way to do it is to do it in safety. And so you have the capacity to create that safety for yourself and for this wealthy version of you to come into your world, to show you exactly where you need to go, and to merge together to be your wealthiest self. So, welcome officially to the Wealth Vortex. And I am going to, after all that, invite you to, if it's available to you, close your eyes. If you're driving, do not close your eyes. But we are going to drop into the spaceship and create this wealth for ourselves. So taking a few breaths here, exhaling all the air within you, and taking the biggest breath you've taken yet today. And then exhaling everything. If it helps to exhale on sound, you can do that. Again, taking a big breath into the fullness of your body. Exhaling all that air. When you think that there's nothing left inside you, exhale a little bit more, maybe like pushing it out. And then inhaling again into the fullness of your body and into the space all around you. And exhaling and letting that go. And as you drop in this moment, in your present awareness, I want you to really bring your awareness into your body, into a place in your body that's calling to you. Maybe it's your heart, maybe it's your center, maybe it is your left pinky toe. Whatever part of your body is asking for your attention and your awareness, bring your attention there. You could take a breath into that area, into your body, saying, hey, body, I'm here with you. And set the intention here to be the safe space. Be the safe space for wealth to come into your life. And set the intention to also be the vehicle to travel to places that you've never been to and possibilities that are yet to happen. And from this place, I want you to imagine that you are taking a walk out in nature. Perhaps it's a forest, somewhere where there is a path that you can walk through, somewhere where you feel really safe, where you can look all around you in your imagination and you can see the sun filtering through the leaves and hear the birds in the trees. Maybe you can smell the freshness of life being born and recycled. Feeling what you feel as you walk down this path through this place in nature. What does the air feel like? What is the temperature? What does it feel like to move your body through this space? Maybe even like, what is the taste of this space? What is delicious about being in this space? And as you continue to walk down this path, noticing everything that's around you, at the end of the path, there's a clearing. And as you approach the clearing, it opens up into an area. Maybe it's like a cove on this really beautiful, like secret beach, or maybe it's an open field. Whatever pops into your psyche is exactly where you're meant to be. So allowing yourself to enter this opening, and as you walk into this open but safe and protected space, noticing that there is a fire burning in this space. And as you start to approach the fire starts to heat up, and you can feel its warmth as you get closer and closer. And as you get closer and closer, the fire starts to grow and grow. You're just taking a moment to meet this fire. And in this moment, allowing this fire to take anything that you would like to give, because on the other side of this fire is your wealthiest self that is going to reveal itself to you. So before you go, really, you can express to the fire, or you can throw to the fire in your imagination, like all of the things about money, about wealth, about the system, all of the things that you no longer want, just toss them into the fire, give them to the fire. Allowing the fire to take them and transmute them. And as it's so doing, this like most wealthy, prosperous vision of you is forming on the other side. And you can almost start to see this version of you through the flickering flames. And in this moment, knowing that we are in this place that is totally safe, we're about to do something really bold, and we are about to walk through this fire, knowing that we will be safe, knowing that we are going to meet something magnificent on the other side. Get yourself ready, allowing the fire to take any resistance or fear or stagnation. You can continue feeding that to the fire. And then whenever you are ready, you are going to allow yourself to walk through the fire. And as you do so, feeling the flames caressing you and moving over you, and feeling yourself moving through it, knowing that you are doing something so potent, even a little wild and dangerous, and you're still totally okay. And not only are you okay, but as you move through it, you see this you on the other side, and you get to walk through and meet you there. And so once you're through the fire, noticing this you, this wealthy you standing before you, and what is different about this being that's before you. How did they look? How do they stand or sit or hold themselves? What do you notice about them? And what do you notice about yourself meeting them? And then allow yourself to greet this version. This is you. And saying hi to this new you, and however you choose to do that. And hearing their welcome back to you, that they've been so excited to meet you. And noticing what you notice about how they sound or how they speak. And also allowing yourself in this moment to receive the love of this version of you that is so happy that you're here, that is like so ready and willing to give you all of the energy that they have, all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, all of the allness that they have and are, and to give that to you so that you can become one. And feeling how that feels in your heart, feeling how that feels in your body. And in this moment, this wealthy you is going to give you a gift. So perhaps you hold out your hands or open your arms, however you would like to receive this gift, you can do so. And allow them to give you this gift. Noticing what it is. Is it a physical object? Is it words and blessings? Maybe it's just an energetic transmission. I'll give you a moment here to fully allow yourself to receive what Wealthy You is giving you. And once you receive that, you can take it with you. You might choose to put it in your pocket or bring it into your heart space, or however you want to take that gift with you. It is now yours. It will serve you on the rest of this journey. And in this moment, allowing yourself to express your love in whatever way you do for this wealthy version of you. Perhaps you hug or bow or dance together, whatever you're inspired to do. And you are about to leave. You will be united one day. But at this point, we're going to say goodbye. So say goodbye, knowing that you will become one with them as you journey along. And as you say goodbye, you're walking back through the fire, seeing how the flames are maybe a little bit different, feeling what it feels like as you walk through, almost like the phoenix coming back from the ashes through the fire. The fire is actually giving you sustenance, it's giving you energy, it's rebuilding you, it's giving you everything you need to continue on this journey. And as you come through the fire and you leave this beautiful sacred space, saying goodbye to the space, knowing you can return here whenever you want. Leaving this space and then continuing down the path that you came down to get here. Looking around as you travel down this path and just noticing if anything seems different on your way back. Perhaps you're different. As you continue to walk this path all the way back into your body, here in your chair or wherever you are sitting or standing or being. Calling yourself fully back into your body. If it helps you, you can use your name, saying, Lobsterbird, I call myself fully back into my body. Calling yourself all the way back in, calling in all of your power from all of those places where it may have been scattered across the world, calling all of that. And imagine just like sucking that back into your body where you are right now. And then here, taking one big deep breath into your body as you are right now. Exhaling and letting that go. And whenever you're ready, you can float your eyes gently open. And welcome back. You are now in the Wealth Vortex. And I am so happy that you're here. And I'm so happy that you have met these other parts of you. So welcome back to the new you. And as I said, you are going to have an opportunity to take this new you on a choose your own adventure. Give me like a raise your hand or put in like something in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Like the books, the choose your own adventure books. Thank you, everyone, for taking off and being on this journey. Does anyone not know? Let me know if you don't know what the choose your own adventure books are. But in short, right? You go on this journey, which we were already on as in the Wealth Vortex. Oh, okay. Vidya, don't know. Oh, Jennifer, don't know. Awesome. I think this is better than reading a book. Is what we're doing now. So the premise of these books is that, there's a story and there's a journey. And in this case, we're in the Wealth Vortex, right? Oh, Frank doesn't know. Oh, I am like honored to, catalyze and induct you into this. Because was it the 80s or the 90s that these books were series? This is like a generational stand post of awesomeness. I think the 80s, yeah, Bruriyah says. Yeah, so these books were created as these beautiful vehicles, to Vidya was in India at the time. to really take, I mean, mostly kids, but I also read them as an adult on a journey. So they had a specific theme, right? So our Choose Your Own Adventure book is this Wealth Vortex. We're going in, and who knows what can happen when you go on any adventure or any journey, right? So in these books, you would go on a journey and you would read the story up until a certain part. And then once you got to a place in the story where it could go this way or it could go that way, the book gave you the choice to say, turn to page 27 or to turn back to page 5, right? And if you turn to page 27, you're going to go down the dark alley and meet a mystical woman there. But if you turn to page 5, you know, you're going to go eat lunch with your grandma or like whatever the options were, right? Yeah, it's like the gaming industry is largely, I think, based off of Choose Your Own Adventure books. Yeah, it sounds like Dungeons and Dragons. It's very similar, you know, but they were these stories that really allowed us not only to go on these epic journeys through like space or to other countries or magical things, but we had an active part in choosing which way the story went, which to me is the most like powerful aspect of that. And why, when it comes to being in the wealth vortex and really working with money, you know, like creating wealth and doing things to change the world, like we really have that active choice to choose. And sometimes, like, you know, you would end up like in a snake pit, but you would always get to start the story all over again and make new choices. And I think that really applies when it comes to our finances and it comes to creating wealth. So you here on this call are totally brand new in this moment. You just walked through the fire for you. Power to you. You literally went through the fire to become this new version of you and to be able to go on this adventure to make choices within your financial and wealthy life. So this story is about being your wealthiest you. And myself, Lobsterbird, Bruriyah, and Isha, we're all so here to support you in this journey. And it's going to get a little wild, maybe like snake pit, maybe like mystical fortune teller in the alley, but you'll get to choose which way you go. Yay. I love all the love I'm getting in the chat. Thank you. All right. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Isha to this call. You know, I have so many amazing things I could say about you and Bruriyah both. But for me, when I first came into the Vortex, I watched a presentation with these two and I was just, my mind was blown, my heart was open, and my entire world really like shifted and changed after that. So I just really want to give Isha the floor as we go into the, you know, purification of the prosperity barriers that Isha has to share.
Thank you so much, Love. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you some questions, and I wanted you to put a 1 in the chat if you tend to let bills pile up, or if you avoid making calls to your bank, right? Any financial related calls, you kind of tend to put it off to the next day. Put a 2 in the chat if you feel overwhelmed by the thought of financial planning and you wouldn't even know where to start, right? Put a 3 in the chat if you know, when you make more money, you also spend more money, that it just kind of goes up right along with your income. Put a 4 in the chat if you're not in the habit of tracking your income or your expenses, and you kind of like close your eyes and kind of like swipe your credit card sometimes. You're just like, I hope there's enough. And put a 5 in the chat if you know, even though you have enough, right? Logically, you have enough, you don't feel satisfied or settled with what you have. There's like this worry that it's going to run out or something. All right, so we have a lot of numbers in the chat, right? And it's just like, that goes to show that these are all very human things that we do. And they're also signs of like subtle nervous system dysregulation in relationship to money. And of course, that dysregulation has a lot of different sources, such as collective trauma, epigenetics, family imprinting, as well as the stuff that we experience personally in our lifetime, right? And when you work directly with the money nervous system, essentially the attachment system, you are able to unlock the incredible prosperity that is already accessible and available to you right now, regardless of an arbitrary number in your bank account. And I think we can skip on to the next slide. Spousal imprinting as well. Yes. All right. So the process began for me, right? Unraveling money and what it meant for me and wealth work when I was studying somatics, and I realized how my intimacy pattern, my relational patterns were mirrored in my relationship with money, right? And that I was sort of like, oh yeah, I see that avoidance showing up also in my relationship and my relationship to money. And as my nervous system healed, as my intimacy nervous system healed, so did my relationship with money. It was sort of like this natural progression. And one of the first steps into my intentional money work came via the realization that the energy of money was something completely different from the money system, right? That I had overcoupled the two and made them one and the same, and that by doing so, I had really blocked myself from having a rich and intimate relationship with money. And that's part of what I teach in the Uncolonizing Money work, separating the energy of money from how it's been used, manipulated, and exploited. That was step one. And if you've been hanging with me for a while, you know that I believe the nervous system is the mitigator of your ability to do, be, and have most of what you want, including financial well-being. So essentially, you won't increase your income or move towards greater prosperity unless you raise the upper limits or increase the capacity of your nervous system. So when you experience upper limits on your capacity to receive, your nervous system is not working against you. You've just encountered old learned fear states that are likely outdated and no longer relevant to the soul goals that you have now, right? And this is where money mindset falls short. Just focusing on mindset ignores the socio-political realities of money that we live in, and it also ignores trauma. So expanding my money nervous system by healing trauma was step 2. And step 3 was upgrading my money identity by becoming and identifying myself as someone who could hold and manage larger sums of money. But let's focus on 2 for this presentation, because it's the part that tends to get talked about the least. So so what money coaches don't talk about or don't often acknowledge is that wealth has been concentrated in whiteness, in elite status, in maleness, or that people of color have been historically and systematically barred from accessing economic prosperities in violent ways. Money has been corrupted, used to dominate individuals, right? We see that in, any evidence is war of this, right? Or any war is evidence of this. We don't live in a vacuum, and these are just some of the examples of money trauma and how we sort of experience it from in the past and in the present. So it comes to no surprise, like, why money is so incredibly charged, and it's charged for specific people that have not felt that healthy entitlement to have as much as other people. I mean, imagine it's only been 50 years, like today, this year is the 50th year, right? That since women have been able to own a credit card without having a cosigner, right? Yeah, so it's pretty incredible. So I think we can go on to the next slide. Yeah, okay, awesome. So I wanted to break down the 4 levels of trauma that we carry in our relationship with money. So there's 4 levels, right? There's big T trauma. This happens when we don't have the capacity or the support to process an overwhelming experience. We can get stuck emotionally and therefore energetically, which results in unmetabolized and incomplete loops in the system. Little T trauma is that same thing, except in the developmental stages of your life. So the attachment work I was talking about earlier. And these also involve overwhelm and fear, but within the context of relationship, and usually take place within, between 0 and 6 years of age. And this is where some of our unconscious worthiness stuff comes up, belongingness wounds, deservingness, and they're unconscious because they tend to form before we've accessed language or accessed complex reasoning skills. Then there's the collective, right? Collective trauma. And what a lot of people don't realize is that our bodies our bodies understand unity consciousness. Our minds really like, or, understand things as separate, or we have a intellectual understanding of unity consciousness, but in our day-to-day experience, we're like, yep, you're over there, I'm over here. We have different experiences, but our bodies understand unity consciousness, not separation. So we have mirror neurons that act like, mycelial network, so that when something happens to a group of people that we identify with, it can be along the lines of race or gender or sexuality, right? Let's say that, police brutality, for example, when a group experiences police brutality and we identify with that group, it ripples into our bodies, right? It ripples into the bodies that identify with the people that are being harmed. So that's important to note there. Then there are the ancestral epigenetic experiences living in our DNA. And so I want you to consider for a moment that the egg that you came from originated or like lived in your grandmother's body, because it existed in your mother's body when she was 4 months in utero, right? So you as an egg were bathing in the stress water of whatever your grandmother was experiencing. So, and in my case, that was, like what, post-World War II in Germany. So, yeah, what you need to know about generational and collective trauma and epigenetic transfer is that you inherit survival behaviors from your ancestors based on trauma that are not adaptive to life in the present. It's intended to be adaptive, but it's not. And in mice studies, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this before, where, mice are separated from the mom mouse and separated too early. And so they experience separation anxiety, but then those babies that were separated have babies, and that next generation has babies, and the next generation has babies, and all those subsequent generations, even though they didn't experience separation from their mothers, have separation or show signs of separation anxiety, right? So it's like, it's several generations down the line. And yeah, and so opening capacity is really important, and you do that through the trauma healing process. And it's like, capacity is the amount of stress that you can hold while also staying present without having to disconnect from your body or shut down or go into one of our defensive patterns like avoidance or anxiety, right? And essentially, like when I'm working with someone doing a financial needs analysis, for example, sometimes people shut down because it's like the information is overwhelming, or we get fidgety, we start yawning, we start feeling sleepy, or we start looking at our phones. And essentially those are signs of like overwhelm, and we need to sort of like pull ourselves away, right? And who knows, you might be experiencing some of these, you're having some of these experiences during this presentation or at different points during this presentation. And so what I want you to do is just to notice, just observe, and be gentle with yourself. And I was there too when I started this process. So, your body has been gathering information for survival for centuries in the attempt to survive in the present. It's meant to be adaptive, but it's not adaptive to the here and now. It's not adaptive to your spiritual evolution, and it's not adaptive to where we're going as a collective. And even though we don't know the stories of our ancestors, what they experienced, the hardships they went through, that's why the unconscious work can be like the body work can be so important in healing the relationship with money. So maybe you've had the experience, I'm just going to share an example, right? Maybe you've had the experience that no matter how hard you work, you haven't been able to increase your income, right? Maybe you're aware of some like immigrant mentality that's kind of like, yes, the hustle, work hard, right? Maybe that's what your parents and grandparents modeled for you and sort of exalted as the example. Work hard, make money, and maybe also you had to work really hard to get their love and attention, right? That may be part of like, part of what's contributing to this pattern that you're seeing in yourself. So when you're presented with an easy way to make money, that's going to feel unfamiliar to you, which your nervous system will read as unsafe, right? Because what's unfamiliar is unsafe. And your body might go into some form of anxiety or hyperarousal. Or on the flip side, hypoarousal, which is more freeze and dissociation. And when that happens, your brain is going to start making up stories to what makes sense, to what your body's experiencing, right? To match. Your brain might say, oh, that's too good to be true. That's not going to work. Are you trying to like pull one over on me? Or your brain will try to make things complicated so that it is more work, which would then lower the anxiety, because that working harder is what's familiar and safe to you, right? So you see what's happening. The state of your body informs the thoughts that then inform your behavior. And the good news is, I think we can skip to the next slide. Yeah. And so the good news is that by tuning into sensation and listening to your body, you can close those stress loops and signal to your nervous system that you are safe, and thereby become unstoppable. Yeah, so what Lobsterbird guided us through is like directing your nervous system to access a state of prosperity internally, right? We uncouple source energy from external aspects of like resources, right? We resource within, and thereby healing unhealthy attachments to money as you regulate your nervous system in relationship to money. So in this, over time, resolves cellular imprints and experiences to raise your nervous system set point and thereby increase your capacity for joy, prosperity, wealth. And, you know, when you think about ancestral trauma, for example, like, you know, I started doing this work after my children were born. So the epigenetics were set. They inherited all the stuff, right? That ship has sailed. But what I do focus on now is transferring a new energetic and emotional and, you know, behavioral pattern with money. Like they see the example of how I interact with money. And that then, you know, that also transfers to the collective, right? When I show up as, you know, a mixed person who grew up in Puerto Rico, you know, of Latinx heritage, as a queer person, you know, with wealth, with tangible wealth, then, right, that sets an example for people and gives people permission to have that too. So that's how it ripples into the collective, as well as through the, you know, my children and their children's children. Yeah, so a relaxed money system is in and of itself a form of generational wealth. And, you know, just as we inherit trauma, we can also inherit and pass on collective and ancestral joy. So this is what I think of as revolutionary wealth: more enjoyment, more peace with money, more relaxation and trust in managing money, managing it responsibly, and feeling like it's contributing to, like it's in alignment with your values, and feeling full and abundant and prosperous and open to receive, right? So I feel like that is where we have some of our biggest impact. Yeah, so that's it for me. And I just want to, yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yay. Thank you, Isha. So much powerful stuff in there, and just seeing everything happening in the chat, people having really emotional experiences, having experiences really recognizing, you know, where they can relate to what you were saying in their own very personal ways, right? And that's the thing about a legacy of embodied wealth, is that, you know, again, they make it seem like money, oh, it's this thing, this is what you have to do it. And it's really all so personal, and it all starts right here. So thank you so much for sharing all that. I always just feel so activated to hear you talk about that. And I want to keep moving us along. So I want to welcome Bruriyah. But one of the things that like I'm obsessed with in knowing both of you is that you're both trauma-informed practitioners, therapists and psychologists. And this is the work, right, that we need to be doing right now, if we do really want to create wealth for everyone. So without further ado, Bruriyah.
Thank you so much, Lobsterbird and Isha. That was incredible. And I feel like we're always so in sync. Like I hadn't really looked at your portion in depth, and it just lays the foundation so beautifully for what I'm about to go into. So I just love how we're always so synced up. Yeah, so Isha, shared the importance of recognizing, context, right? Context of where we all come from, what we carry with us as we're working on really creating a new template for accessing wealth. And so I felt like that was the perfect tie-in to what I'm going to speak about, which is really starting to create that vessel for expansion. And Lobsterbird took us through such an amazing meditation that feels so connected. And I got goosebumps listening to that and going through that immersive experience. And as I was going through the meditation, I really was tapping into, my higher wealthy self. And it's a place that, no matter how long we're on this journey, we have to remind ourselves to return there and remember, right? Because we can forget and remember and forget and remember and forget and remember over and over again. So yeah, you guys, you can see this little quote that I have on the slide. Witches call it spells, Christians call it prayer, spiritualists call it manifestation, atheists call it the placebo effect, scientists call it quantum physics. Everyone's arguing over its name. No one is denying its existence, right? And I like to call it magic. So, there is this recognition pretty much amongst all people, regardless of where they come from, that there is a truth to an energy that exists in the world, and that we do have the ability to tap into this energy and actually shift our reality by being in relationship with this energy. And so we can move on to the next. So I took kind of the more science-y path just to try to appeal to the widest crowd, although I'm very woo-woo as well. So, but according to quantum physics, there's this concept called observation theory. Many of you have probably heard of this already. And observation theory basically refers to the fact that our observation of an experience can actually shift the experience itself, which in essence means that we have a direct impact on the reality that we live, the reality that we create, and that would apply to every subject under the sun, including the subject of wealth, right? And so, like Isha shared, there's all these contextual elements to our relationship with wealth as well that we can't bypass, we can't dismiss, because they're part of us. Like she literally explained how they're in our bodies, right? But that doesn't have to stop us from dreaming, from visualizing, from painting a huge picture and believing that there's an infinite potential available to us, that there's an infinite supply available to us as well. So we can move on. So here are just some fundamentals of this body of work. If you're looking at it from a more, even from a scientific perspective, like this is really ultimately quantum physics. It has the basic fundamental understanding that everything is made of frequency and vibration. And when we are a vibrational match to the thing that we desire, it will manifest in our physical reality. And we're going to get a little bit more into that on the next slide of like, well, how do we become a vibrational match to it, especially if we have all this stuff in our bodies, but it's possible. And like Isha said as well, it's possible. The other thing that's important, I think this is often confused, especially in some of the more new age circles and groups of people trying to master and study these manifestational arts, is that we don't get what we want, we get what we are, right? So if we're operating in a vibrational reality where everything is made of frequency and vibration, we are going to attract the direct match to our vibration, not the direct match to the thing, oh, I'd like $1 million to fall out of the sky. It doesn't work that way. So that's a very important distinction and nuance to remember. But The good news, the exciting news about all of this is that we do get to design our life, and we are the cause, not the effect, regardless of what has happened to us. And that is not meant to, condone inequalities, systemic problems, any racial injustices, any of that. That's all real. And we have to do the trauma work to work through that with the reverence that it requires. But we also still get to be the victors of our life at the end of the day, regardless of what's happened. And that's a positive, very exciting, and very empowering takeaway that we all get to have. And I remember when I first started studying this material, I was blown away. Like, I could not stop. I was so excited, like just thinking about, wait, I get to create my reality. Are you serious? Like, that's real, because prior to studying this material, I always felt like I was just a victim, and life sucks and then you die. And just shit happens, and it is what it is. And I felt no personal sovereignty. I felt no agency of my life and of my reality. And when I realized how very untrue that was, it was the most exciting thing to me, and has continued to be until this very day. Now, another very, very cool thing that a lot of people don't realize is that our vibration is determined by our emotions. So if you guys see this chart on the left, this is a map of consciousness by David Hawkins. If you guys have not heard of his book, Power versus Force, I highly recommend it. He has many books, but this one really is the one that breaks down these teachings. And he teaches in the book that every emotion has a corresponding frequency. And so you guys can see, right, like the lowest level vibration is tied to the emotion of shame. So when we're feeling shame and we're feeling guilt, right, this is literally the lowest energy that we could possibly have. We're not going to be a very strong vibrational match to joy and love and bliss and euphoria, right? And so there's a lot of different teachings and a lot of different methods out there to help soothe yourself, because obviously no shame for having shame. That's a really bad spiral that you don't want to get into. Only compassion always, right? But there are different tools and methods that you can use to work yourself up that emotional vortex, right? This is basically a vortex too. We're in the vortex of wealth here, so that you can actually truly access those higher vibrational states with their corresponding emotions. And no, it's not realistic or practical or even the goal to be enlightened and at 700 hertz all of the time. That's not possible. That's not realistic. That doesn't take, we are spiritual beings here having a very human experience because we chose to, because we wanted to feel the full range of all emotions that are available to us, right? But just to show us that if we can reach for those higher vibration states, we might be able to open up deeper levels of expansion, especially tap into those higher levels of wealth as well. So we can move on to the next slide. So this is where it gets wonky, right? And this is what I was alluding to before, is that because we attract what we are and not what we want, if we have a history of trauma, which basically everybody does, right? There's nobody on the earth that really doesn't have some form, at least little t trauma, right? Then it's hard to embody the vibration of a millionaire if all you've ever known is poverty, right? Your vibration is also impacted by your subconscious mind. And as Isha discussed, your nervous system and your mindset, right? So regardless of if you have limiting beliefs, psychological barriers, systemic inequality, generational trauma, all of these other factors at play, we can do that inner work, rewiring our subconscious, nervous system regulation, meditation, all of these wonderful tools to help us unravel the wonkiness. And I think I have one more slide. Okay, maybe I don't. Okay. Oh yes, one more. Yeah, that was, if you go this one, yeah. Right. So what I've kind of discovered on my own journey, I call myself a trauma-informed manifestational artist, is that the healing is in the feeling, right? And so in order to be a master manifester, you want to obviously reach for these higher vibrational states and frequencies and open up, you know, endless expansion, but you also do have to honor the shadow and the darker parts and the traumas and the pain as a part of a total integration of the whole, right? Because the whole contains the light and the shadow. So I am a big fan of the secret third thing. I am a big fan of the place where the and the both meet together, right? Where really like the non-binary at the end of the day, right? So what if both could be true? What if our higher selves created this whole scenario so that we could reclaim our power from it, but also it was traumatic and it was messed up? Can't both of those things be true at the same time? I believe absolutely yes. And what if we could consciously create our realities through the power of our positive thought and also acknowledge our shadowy parts? And I believe that actually through that acknowledgement and through the working with those shadowy parts is how we truly access those highest vibrational states. Because I've tried it the other way, guys. I've tried bypassing and it doesn't work, because those, you know, experiences truly are imprinted in our being. And no matter how much we might want to avoid or pretend that they're not there, they are. And what we resist persists, and they will continue showing up until we have the bravery and the courage to face the shadow and embrace it and integrate it into the wholeness of our being. So that is all I have for this portion.
Thank you so much, Bruriyah. All of it is gold. And yeah, what really pulled me into the Wealth Vortex was what you share on trauma-informed manifesting, and that it really is, we can't spiritually bypass our way to wealth. You know, we can't pretend that the things that aren't real for us aren't real, you know, and at the same time, we are on a choose your own adventure journey, I remind you. And we get to make choices that allow us to not have our lives be dictated by those things. I love the way that you explain that and bring in the science. And I really do want to do this choose your own adventure thing. You have two really good questions here. So we can go, we're at our first choose your own adventure juncture. This is an impromptu moment. Put in the chat if you want Bruriyah to answer these two brilliant questions, and we might have to go a little longer than 90 minutes. Bruriyah and Isha, are you okay with that? Is that okay? So y'all put in the chat, put in a 1 if you want Bruriyah to answer the questions. Put in a 2 if you're like, nah, I just want to choose my own adventure. Screw those questions. I'm seeing lots of 1s. Anyone got a 2? I forget what social structure is that is, but if it's like one person puts in a 2, I'm gonna move on. Well, Molly asked, what are the questions? So with that, I will answer your question, and so will Bruriyah. So the first question you got from Molly is, I feel like I'm supposed to know what I want before I can get it, but what if I'm not sure what I want to vibe with? What if we don't know what we want?
Okay, that's really good. So what I would invite you to do in that case is to see if you know what you don't want, right? Because really at the end of the day, everything is either the presence of or the lack of something. So if you're clear on what you don't want, that can be a really helpful indicator to guide you to the opposite of that, which is what you do want. And then the other thing I might suggest is just follow the next logical step, right? Follow the next best feeling thought, the next best feeling thing. Some of the best choices and life paths that I found have come from actually just being in that like deep state of presence and trusting that that moment of presence is taking me to the perfect place and to the next best moment, and has then led me to more specificity through trusting that. So maybe you don't need to know it all right now.
Yay, good answer. Presence is power. And then the next one maybe isn't so much a question as a response to what you're saying, but I wonder if you have a response back. Vidya was saying this chart has been one of my big resources. So talking about the vortex of frequency. And so saying, if the millionaires, you know, are icky, selfish people, right? As in we have no good role models among the wealthy. Like how does that impact us?
Yeah, well, I think like Isha spoke to that so beautifully earlier, which is that through conscious beings becoming financially empowered, becoming financially literate, and then having the same education and resources that are typically reserved for the wealthy few, then we get to steward and be that solution here now. Right. And that's how we're working to level the playing field. So yes, I agree. It's definitely harder if you don't have a template that already exists. There isn't a role model, but that we get to be that role model now. So I don't know if that feels satisfying, but that's what I would say.
That feels satisfying to me. And I also love the side conversation going on about the secret third thing and paradoxes in the conversation in the chat. Yes, totally. Absolutely. This brings us so perfectly to the three paths that we have in this part of the story in the Wealth Vortex. Because as Bruriyah said, you get to be the template. You get to decide and choose and be that wealthy self and allow that to radiate out into the world around you so that if we're our future millionaires, right, then we are actually actively changing that paradigm where are icky people who are doing corruptive things to the world. And that's why I can't stress enough how important it is for us to really embody our wealthiest selves so we can really utilize these resources, right, to do good things, to do regenerative things, right, to create initiatives for healing, hope, harmony, all the things we all know we want to see in the world. We have the power to do that. So thank you to Isha, thank you to Bruriyah, like for, creating that whole pathway and really showing how dynamic it is that we need to hold the both and create that secret third thing. That secret third thing in this is your wealthy self. So we have three paths. We heard from me in the wealthy self journey. We heard from Isha in the purification, and then we heard from Bruriyah really bringing in the spiritual, energetic, scientific concepts, right? Bringing them into ourselves and allowing it to activate us to be able to do what's next. So my friends, this is the exciting moment. This is the experiment innovation of our online lives. We are now going to choose your own adventure. So you have three different pathways. And so just like in the book, you can turn to page 22 and that will be Isha. And Isha is going to compound your cash flow, to learn to leverage financial secrets of the wealthy to make money work harder for you. So if at this point you are like, just your mind is like, but like how, right? I want to know how, I want to know what you're talking about. Like, how do we do this? Like really practically and really just like you're chomping, to know, turn to page 22. Not yet. You will in a second. If you turn to page 44, you will go down that dark alley with the mystic waiting, the fortune telling ball. And that's our Bruriyah. To create massive passive income. So to learn how to tap into the top 5% of earners and create a massive passive income stream by building a financial services brokerage. So if you have, Lynn saying all of the above, and I'm going to address you in a minute. If you are like, oh my goodness, I love these humans. I love this mission. I love like everything I'm hearing. I want to be able to generate this kind of wealth and work with people and do crazy online experiments like this and all that stuff. Go see your resident mystic down the alley on page 44. If you want to turn to page 77, that is I, Lobsterbird, where we will be the embodiment of wealth. So we'll actually engage in an embodiment experience that will help you to become, like Bruriyah was saying, right? We need to actually be that vibration. We'll do a thing together that will actually help you to become that vibration of your wealthiest self so that you know, you can leave here being that and just call in all of those amazing opportunities and resources that you desire. Thank you so much for traveling with us into the Wealth Vortex. We're totally honored that you're here. And now, quantum time and space traveler, it is your opportunity to choose your own adventure. So here's what you need to do. You're going to pick your path. So will you choose the path to Isha and turn to page 22? Or will you go down the dark alley to Bruriyah on page 44? Or will you jump into your spaceship and go meet Lobster on page 77? Whatever your choice is, you can go back to the original email from which you access this video. If you do that, you will have this kind of interactive choose your own adventure thing that I think is really fun and really engaged and help to create some momentum and energy. So you can access it that way, or this is your adventure. You can choose to go to the caption below this YouTube video, and there you will find the different pathways that you can choose as well. So either way, whether you head back to the email that you got this, or go to the bottom of the YouTube video, we're excited to see where this journey unfolds, and we would love to hear from you how this was for you. So you can let us know in the comments or reply to our email. Either way, we love you. Have fun. Go on your adventure. Continue forth on your adventure through the Wealth Vortex.